Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good evening and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald, and we have a great show for you tonight. A lot has happened in the tech world in the last couple weeks, and we are here to recap a lot of that. We have a big update section today, and we have some news regarding Tesla and something really, really cool coming up here. We have Moon Wi-Fi that will eventually be tested here on Earth. So stick around for that and more as we get into this episode of Tech Talk Nation. So I am joined once again by my wonderful co-hosts, Matt Griswold and Ryan Eastman. How are you guys?
Excellent.
Happy to be alive. A little weight loss on my face.
A little weight, yeah. It's a little different. Yeah.
A little lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize how short I was going until I went so short. And
After that first pass, it's game over.
Yep.
You can never go back.
Yeah.
You can always go shorter. You can never replace to go longer. So I highly regret that. That was my mistake last week.
Nice. Speaking of mistakes, talk about social media. No, kidding.
Speaking of mistakes.
Talk about
Hold
social
on.
media.
Is this the segue I thought you were going to give me for social media?
No. I'm just messing with you. But
yeah, that's what I thought. It's been on top. We've been decent recently. I'll say
yes,
that.
no, I meant mistakes in terms of Facebook. Well, but we'll get into that later. In the meantime, do you want to tell the good people watching today where they can find us on social media?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram were down last week, but they're up this week. So that means you guys got new posts
But
on all of our
LinkedIn
social
isn't.
media platforms. But LinkedIn's down. Fortunately, we don't have a LinkedIn account, and we probably will never have one, which is good.
One?
Either way, make sure to stay up to date with the latest Tech Talk Nation news, and also just kind of generally when we post. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. On Facebook at Tech Talk Nation Show. On Instagram, Tech Talk Nation, and on Twitter, Tech Talk Nations. That's Tech Talk Nation with an S. You can also see us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, anywhere you get your podcasts from, but we do stream live on YouTube. So make sure to follow us on there and hit the post notifications. Hit that bell so you don't miss when we go live. We're trying to get more regular, and I think now we're kind of proving this to all of you. We're trying to be more regular with it all. But if not, you'll get updated there. With that, Fitz, off we go.
Off we go, indeed. Well, I just updated the YouTube description here to make sure that we're getting all those people with the good views coming in. The first article we have for you tonight is a follow-up from what we talked about last week with the Facebook whistleblower and got into a really good discussion on this. We're going to keep it a little shorter today, but basically this article is a little bit biased. It's a little bit written from a certain point of view. A little bit.
A certain
yes.
point of view.
There.
Yes, but basically they're comparing all of this to the big tobacco playbook here, basically mirroring how Facebook has reacted to this as to how the tobacco industry reacted to the news of nicotine becoming addictive and all of the rest of the fallout from that. So I know there's a couple pieces that we wanted to talk about in this article in particular. Not sure how we want to handle introducing those, but I don't know. For me, at least, Facebook they're trying to do damage control right now. They know what came out is pretty scathing, and it to an average person seems very almost undoubtedly true that some of this stuff is happening based on these internal conversations. But what do you do when you're Facebook in that situation? Do you just start attacking the person, or do you be like, here's what we're doing, this was a misunderstanding, yada yada yada? But Facebook just was like, nah, she's bad. So
well, I mean, for starters, it was pretty much radio silence to start. It didn't seem like there was much of a response. It doesn't seem like there was much of a response until maybe during or after the very soon after follow-up congressional hearings that happened. after the bombshell, was it 60 Minutes came out?
Bombshell.
I,
Sorry, I got my
my
own strong perspective on all these things.
I'll be honest. I am surprised considering the conversations that we've had in the last few weeks, um, of that reaction. But
Yeah.
let me finish my piece. They definitely are still hiding Zuck, the human lizard person. He's responsible for this. Ultimately, he is the yes no decision maker at the end of the day. Final say. I'm sure quite literally everything comes on. No, he doesn't have control over everything, but he is the person at the top who's responsible for making sure people are following some sort of company culture, procedures, policies, things like that, and doing the right thing. And obviously, that's just not the case. It's embarrassing, I think, for Facebook, and it seems like they're taking a kind of how you alluded to that big tobacco position, trying to smear the whistleblower and really not respond to the claims they made much at all. It was very empty. It was very political of a response, not really answering the question, but reacting nonetheless and trying to belittle that the whistleblower, and then also just saying, "Yeah, we need to make some new internet rules." Well, yeah, we do. It's been long enough. We need to, and you're going to be probably one of the biggest, most effective platforms out there because of new legislation. I'm all for it. I've never been against it. I don't understand why Congress can't get this one thing done. I'm veering a little off topic here, but yeah, I mean, to sum it up, I don't know if I'm surprised by Facebook's response or not. Either way, it's pretty bad, and I really hope that Congress can just work for once towards change here and attack big tech when they have the opportunity, because they've had a few in the past and just failed, just outright failed.
The one thing I do want to point out too, you kind of mentioned that where they're trying to smear the whistleblower, they're trying to do this. We talked about this very briefly during the pre-show today, and we were saying, wait a second, that Facebook was basically like, held a hearing committee with this is Facebook. Today, a Senate Commerce subcommittee held a hearing with the product manager at Facebook who worked for the company for 2 years, had no direct reports, never attended a decision point with C-level meetings, and testified more than 6 times on the subject matter in question. We don't agree with her characterization of the many issues she tested about. And this tweet from her former boss actually was like, well, I was there for 6 years, has numerous direct reports, led many decision meetings with C-level execs. I find the perspective basically founded. And it's just interesting to have this direct like negation of their argument just immediately. I mean, granted, I can't verify this my own, like I don't have the freaking responsibility chart or the accountability chart from Facebook, but it sounds legit to me. So
Yeah.
All right, now here's where I come in with a very, very different perspective from everyone else.
oh boy.
I mean, I can start this by just saying I hate Facebook. I don't think anyone should be on it or use it. I think it's a terrible, just like thing to use in general. It's bad for you just objectively. But so is, I mean, just to carry their own comparison, smoking's really not good for you either, and we're perfectly happy to let people smoke as well. But just there's a lot of things with this that are weird to me. The first thing kind of is that she got a congressional thing like almost immediately, and there's been about 4 to 5 other Facebook whistleblowers who never got to testify before Congress. No one ever called them up for anything. Who had entirely like what I think are legitimate, like surprising things that they're doing and how they're doing them. But I don't know, kind of in general, I kind of have a fairly strong take on internet rules and all that, as in like a strong distaste for them. Uh, I think a lot of times the only rule I see is like truly uh, I guess like that really needs to concern the stuff with the internet is libel and how like stuff like that gets treated libel. There's probably some rulings on advertising and stuff that might also be very, very important. But I think libel's the big one. And I think it's the one that maybe tech manages to skirt around the best. Uh, I don't know. I don't see the need to like strongly regulate them, except that I also do. So let me kind of explain what I mean, right? If all people are doing on your platform is they're following people, they're seeing what the people they follow post, and like they're just keeping track of things that way, I don't see any reason why there needs to be any like practical oversight unless like you're censoring people because then I'm kind of speaking to an old law that got instantiated early in the history of the internet. I think it's called like Section 238 or something like that,
Yeah, I
where it's
believe so.
basically how the internet deals with libel and stuff. If you're a free platform, you don't have to, you can't be accused of libel. You have to sue the person who posted it on your platform. But then once, it seems to me at least that once you start censoring people and controlling what you can and can't post, uh, you're a publisher now. You're deciding what gets put out and what doesn't.
Hmm.
I think you have to start taking responsibility for what becomes on your platform. So that's
That's
kind of the two things I see, right? You either have to be a platform and let people like post what they want mostly. I think the law does make room for like bans on probably like profanity because this was the 90s, nudity, obviously anything that's already illegal, like that clearly needs to get put off. But I think on the whole, like if the platform is really just for like connecting people and that, I don't see a need to like insert rules. And I think where maybe Facebook might kind of skirt this in a strange way is the algorithm, is the serving up of new content all the time from random places. Because that's no longer like a forum or like a public place like that. That's you're being served up content, kind of like you would from, say, the Wall Street Journal's publication. And that
interesting.
might be where they run into the law a little bit too
That's a good point.
aggressively.
That's a good
Well,
point. Yeah. So
I, go ahead, Fitz.
okay, I'll say my 2 cents on this first. I see your point with this because if you're a truly independent publisher, you are, or excuse me, a platform, you basically allow people to do X thing, and then you allow
Yeah,
other people to find what other people do of X thing. So like if it's a and this kind of went away of maybe about
from
5 years
Facebook a
ago,
little bit.
right? Where you get a all you do is you just aggregate every single thing that one of your friends has done into a timeline. In my
Yeah,
opinion, that would be a little more
to me that functions like a
platform,
forum almost,
right? But if
like a platform or a forum where libel I don't think really is that company's concern.
right, but now you have Facebook that's elevating certain content like the stuff that makes you
Sure,
angry and then pushing
Yep.
down other
but
content. So
Yep.
still being with this though, my concern here is mostly with libel laws, not with. I really don't care about like misinformation or anything like that because I honestly believe that most people have to sort through just a gargantuan amount of bullshit every day, just in your life. Interpersonal relationships are full of you having to sort through lies and truths. Every time you want to buy a car, you're sorting through lies and truths. Just like every decision you make, you're having to like apply this muscle. It's not like people don't like flex this and practice this all the time. You have to. So I don't see why this should be any different. I see it as mostly just a forum. But if you're not going to do that, if you're going to act like a publisher, I think, all right, well, libel laws kind of you're incurring that responsibility if you want to act like a publisher and decide what can or can't be posted.
hmm.
I think that's
So
I think that's fair, but I don't think that still addresses the issue of, like the feeds and as Fitz mentioned, pushing certain content to drive engagement, right? I think those are kind of two different things,
Well,
aren't
yeah,
they?
no. It is, but it isn't. My perspective on that really is I don't care. You need to like you as a person need to have some responsibility and just figure out what is or isn't true, or maybe just figure out that Facebook isn't good for you and get off of it, right? The
Okay.
feeds and all that, that's them serving you content. So that's me saying maybe we need to apply libel laws to them because of that.
I
But I don't.
here's the
But
one.
here's here's a point that I'll make though is once if you say, hey, you have to mandate that your platform doesn't have misinformation, people aren't lying on there, and there's not hate speech, which is I guess not illegal speech but uncomfortable speech, which doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
me. If it's not illegal and it's a platform, what's your point? Uh, if you're mandating all that, then the company gets to apply that and interpret that. And a, I think just generally everyone here can agree that we don't trust Facebook in the first place. So why do we trust them to apply these like rules fairly? And
True.
furthermore, like I don't think that some like uppity like I'm trying to come up with good insults that aren't swearing and whatnot. Some uppity fart sniffer from San Francisco. I don't think he's gonna have a lot of like he's gonna fairly like interpret the statements of some country bumpkin out in the middle of nowhere, Idaho.
So this is actually a real, believe it or not, I'm going to kind of derail it a little bit, but this is actually a really good segue into our next article here, because we're talking more about Facebook, but in this article it's about how Facebook permanently banned a developer after he made an app to let users delete their newsfeed entirely. So basically it was a Chrome extension that removed newsfeed articles and basically mass unfollowed all of the users' friends. Facebook didn't like it, wound up kicking off uh, the developer, sent them a cease and desist, and made them remove their app from the Chrome App Store. So, interpreting your arguments that you had here, who do you think is right in this situation? Do you think this is Facebook being like, "Hey, we are an independent platform. We don't want you to do this," or do you think Facebook is trying to um, be big and mighty and forcing people into a curated stream?
I'm not quite sure. Part of the issue comes from like you're getting your stuff from Facebook servers and it's coming to your computer, right?
Right.
And I guess that's acting like a middleman and then filtering down what it is. I'm not quite sure how it works.
Well, if you
Is it
delete
just
your
unfollow a bunch of stuff?
it and in theory removes everything that you'd see in your news feed because you're not following anybody. So,
Well, so what's the issue? It's just changing how you interact with Facebook.
correct.
It's literally just saying, "Hey, I don't want to follow these things," so it unfollows all the stuff for you.
They say
That's
that
just
they
could you
say
not
It
theoretically
was
just do
confusing
that
how it
by
worked in the
hand?
video, in the article.
yeah, basically it's automating a manual task. So,
Yeah, if I can just do that by hand, why is that an issue?
they said it's it broke Facebook's rules on automated collection of user content without Facebook's permission,
That's not collection of content.
and it infringed on Facebook's trademarks.
Well, I mean, in terms of
Okay, it
collection of
might
content,
infringe
it's
on their
got to be a collection of
trademarks.
content of their users or the followers
Yeah,
you have in order to
Right.
do
it's
it.
not sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. I,
get
What does
list
it mean by
iterate through list.
I mean, I still think this is pointless and even more pointless than the other, um, not developers, researchers that were conducting legitimate research on Facebook, and were using all kinds of tools and software they developed
But
to study Facebook.
right, and they're
Yeah,
This
but that's
guy,
actually
Facebook
collecting
covering
data.
themselves.
Yeah.
yeah, this guy did something completely different. He just said, "Yeah, I just want to do something given what I've got,"
Yeah,
and that's just all it was. It wasn't trying to dig up dirt on Facebook, and all
yeah,
this just goes to show is Facebook is unwilling to change their position on users aggregating, using, accessing any Facebook data. And then it also just says that
Yeah.
if you do want to try and do that, we're just not going to tolerate you anymore.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind like transparency laws. That'd be something entirely different to me because that's just trying to like give people more information to work with, like letting people know the risks of cigarettes and all that. To just
Interesting.
keep this just
I
play off the comparison they were all using. I like that a lot better.
like that idea a
I
lot.
like that. Yeah. And even
Mandate it for social media, yeah.
if I'm just thinking out loud here, but going with that transparency, even if you, I mean, granted, you are able to download your data off of Facebook. You, with all the
Yeah,
GDPR and stuff like that, you can download the entirety of your data. But what I would love to see is Facebook creating a almost like an algorithm profile for you, where it says here's the users the top users that we show you, here's the ones we don't show you, and we show you content based on this and this that we've noticed you're interested in.
sure, that's trickier than it sounds. A lot of AI algorithms function as basically black boxes.
Yes, but you can kind of
Like you can get
demystify
a
them.
vague idea, you can see how it's weighting things a little bit,
Even that,
but a
like,
lot of the decisions like do it, and it also depends on what types of models they're using.
right, good
Like
point,
there's more and less complex models that are easier to interpret, but
good point.
a lot of models just might show you how it's weighting certain things, but it's not going to tell you how it got to that decision because that's a huge open question right now in just the area of AI is why are like these being the routes that like neural nets and other things are going.
Good point.
Because we base
Let's
because yeah, the way we see it basically is like there's this huge mathematical model in the center, and you just put data in and it comes out, and you don't necessarily have a clear view on like, so why did the data go this way after we showed it, like 10,000 posts and engagement information and all that?
I mean, all right, let's bring it back a bit here to the point of the
Yeah,
article.
we're going
Yeah,
off
we're
topic.
getting lost in the weeds a little bit. Um, I, I think the point of this is Facebook is not going to give up on the access to its own data, not even just for
Absolutely.
user research, but just for user experience. Um, and I think ultimately, at the end of the day, they're not going to be the ones to change them. I don't think Facebook is going to get a fine, a ruling that is really going to change them. I really think that it's going to be legislative laws and some sort of, and I hate to say this because I'm against this and for a lot of reasons, but government oversight specifically on maybe just them. They're making it very hard right now for so other social media sites to make any legitimate good claims about their platform, um, because they're the biggest social media, one of the biggest social media platforms. They're making it very hard for other platforms to legitimize, the reason for their own purpose and functionality.
Right.
I don't think that really
Yeah, I
a fine is going to change them or a ruling. I think maybe a ruling, but Apple's already trying to fight their own rulings right now. So who knows?
We'll get to
It's
that
gonna have
one.
to be. It's gonna have to be some big government oversight, and that's it.
I still don't think it should be. I still think an update to the libel laws because there's a couple weasel words in there that tech companies kind of use to get around what should be like basically them being held responsible for libel. Like the phrase good faith moderation is not legally defined at all. So you can kind of use that to get around so many things.
Right. And
Yeah.
and that
I
begs
don't
the
want to
question.
see I don't want to see Congress try and tell someone how like social media should work because if there's one thing
Yeah,
I've learned it's that
that's
Congress is not competent.
that's the flip side of the coin here that I'm kind of saying, and it's hard to figure this out, right? It's like, all right,
Yeah.
Facebook, you could play nice, but if you don't play nice, we're gonna step in and do something. And as much as I don't trust Facebook already to play nice and do something better, I also at the same time don't really trust what would effectively be our government um, telling Facebook what to do. I don't like that either.
Right, and that begs the question too, do we need more, and like just in general internet or communication laws like that? Like think about it. The internet's last major law was in what, 1995 or 1998 or something
Yeah, and
like
it's one
that.
of the most lucrative and best ways to run a business right now, precisely because of that underregulation.
Exactly. And I don't think that we need like more of this, more of that. This is how you need to run your business, but at least some sort of check and balance to prevent things like what Facebook is doing
Okay,
right now to
you say that, but I have a
okay.
question for you. So you start mandating like basically moderation on every site, right? How do you tomorrow start your competitor to Facebook,
To
your
good
better social media?
good point. Yeah.
How do you do that? You have to
Yeah.
have an entire fully realized moderation system in place before you can even go into that business. So basically, then that kind of hands them a virtual monopoly, which is honestly, I think if you give it about 3 years, as soon as they start to work out all the bugs and stuff with their moderation models that are just completely automated, I think Facebook might push for the legislation itself because then
Hmm.
that insulates them from a lot of competition.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I didn't think about it that way.
Because they don't have that right now, but they're definitely working on it. And you can talk to anyone there, and they've basically made statements like, "Yeah, our like automated system caught all this stuff, and we got all this off our platform." So I don't see once they have like that basically worked out why they wouldn't like want that in place to insulate themselves from any form of competition.
Hmm.
I just don't think
Hmm.
that it's functionally a good idea. And I think your best choice is to basically make them like have transparency laws, libel laws, and then like probably you still have marketing things, obviously. We have to disclose everything. And that's
Right.
good to have in place as well, so that you can't just like promote things willy-nilly, although that still happens. But
Right.
Hmm.
I just think that if you do this like hard line, this big regulation of just shutting down a lot of stuff that I that I'm gonna just say that the functional that this always boils down to is who is going to decide what is misinformation, what is like wrong to say, what you can and can't say. Someone has to make that decision at some level whenever you introduce this kind of thing.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. You you're not wrong. But yeah. So anyway, think we had a pretty good discussion on that one. Next article we have for you today. We're gonna hopefully get through a lot of these relatively quickly here. Um, Boeing and NASA are still trying to resolve the Starliner valve problem. We
Poor
reported
Love
Boeing.
it.
this on Tech Talk Nation
Poor
a
Boeing.
long time ago, how they had to abort
Love
launch.
it.
Um, so they freed up all but one of the stuck propellant valves that caused for the issue. But basically, they're trying to figure out what happened. They're trying to figure out a root cause of what's going on, and basically, they have kind of two options here. Kind of like refurbish the main component that broke, or just completely take another approach on that. But basically, they said the earliest launch date would be sometime in 2022. So yeah, yay progress or lack thereof. But yeah, good on them to get that done here. Let's see it launch in the next 5 years. That'd be nice. Anyway, next thing we have for you too is Apple seeking to avoid allowing to developers to link out to other payments with appealing the ruling in the Epic versus Apple case. Honestly, nobody nobody was surprised that they appealed the decision, um, but they're trying to do all they can to prevent people from getting into taking their share of the pie. And Apple wants all of the App Store fees to go to them instead of other people. So I'm not sure what your guys' thoughts are on that. You think they're going to fight this to the death, or are they finally going to realize at one point that enough is enough?
No, they're gonna fight to the death until
Are you kidding me?
they are at a dead end. So I mean,
Yeah, they're
that's a big chunk of change to go from 30% to quite literally nothing
Yeah.
overnight
I
with
don't
some of these
know.
apps.
I don't know if we cover this or if this is something I read in my free time, but Apple has the single biggest profit margins out of any video game company in existence. I think
Really? Hmm.
maybe not Steam, but I think other than Steam, they made more than Nintendo and PlayStation. Like
Does that include
Apple's
their
no, just
their
games.
gaming subscription?
It's just Apple's like gaming stuff. That's it.
Right,
This isn't even talking
right.
about their App Store stuff. So why would
You
they give
say,
up on that 30% cut?
Wait,
whoa,
they
hold on, back up. Because you've confused a few Apple things before on the show, and I'll make sure you have this right.
Let me just grab
They
this real
have
quick.
their own arcade online system. It's a subscription gaming system. Are you talking about that, or are you talking about
No.
sales
Here, let
from?
me
Because I
let
do
me
want to
just
be
throw an
abundantly
article
clear
your
on
way.
this one, especially if we're throwing around.
I'll have Matt put the article on screen. That way, there's no
Because
confusion.
that does make a difference.
oh, you guys froze for a second.
No, you froze.
There we go. I threw the article in our article in our Discord.
Okay. Let me throw this up here. Okay.
I think I'm still frozen. Oh, there we go.
There you go. Okay. Apple makes more money from games than Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo combined. The tech giant is now taking more profits from its games than Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo combined. While Apple Arcade is still a great value, it's not for the reason that their success in gaming space. Massive titles like Fortnite and Honor of Kings bring in tons of revenue in the form of 30% that Apple takes for listing these titles in their App Store.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. That's a 30%.
Yeah, I know, and
So
that's what
it's
we're
not that
talking
they
about.
don't have anything else. That's literally what they get their money from.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I think they're going to fight it to the end because the amount of money they make off that is insane.
It's funding all the
And
lawyers.
that
Yeah.
it's funny though. It's funny though because that 30% isn't necessarily what everyone is paying. Apple's made special deals, and this has come out in the lawsuit with Epic. Apple's made special backdoor deals with other companies in order to lower their percentages so they could
Oh, yeah.
continue to do good business and have a trusted partner on the App Store. I don't know what it was. Amazon might be one of them. I thought there was a second one, but you can fact check me on that.
Honestly,
I'm
that
not
wouldn't
sure.
surprise me.
It was another big player in the space that I wasn't surprised to hear based off of how big they were, but also shocked that Apple didn't just make a cut a one-off deal for one of their customers or one of their partners, really.
I can't seem to find it right now.
It was like way at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can find it.
Okay, no worries. But yeah, basically, I can see where they still want their piece of the pie. They're still going to fight this tooth and nail, but I also can see them eventually just kind of. I don't want to say giving up on it, but maybe reducing the fee and kind of spinning it in another way, like we're a champion of making this accessible to people everywhere or something like that. So basically lowering their fee, lowering their profit, and pivoting it into a win for them rather than a loss to Epic. So that's my thought.
Just to click to poke in, some of the companies that don't have that 30% cut include. Never mind, I couldn't find it quick enough.
Okay, no worries.
Oh, McDonald's, Starbucks, any food companies bypass it. There were better examples I had on this, but I'll find them.
Who knew?
I'll find them.
Well, I think we could go on about this one all day here, but this is another Apple article that's actually, in my opinion, pretty cool. Apple is reportedly planning to make CarPlay more useful. Eventually, they hope to integrate directly with the manufacturer's equipment, like AC, car seats, heaters, any form that of thing that isn't necessarily just the radio. Um, so basically, this article on Gizmodo here kind of goes into how some automakers may be a little reluctant for that, but how cool it would be if it actually happened. And I know you guys
Did I
have a
call
lot to
this or
say.
not a few weeks ago for Tesla? I
I
mean,
think we talked about it, and Tim Cook, obviously big fan of the show, listened.
he's clearly listening. He's listening to you, Ryan, though. Well,
We
whether or
know
not he
Tim
takes your
Cook,
advice,
Elon
I don't
Musk,
know, but he's
big fans of the
listening.
show.
Yes,
No, it's
definitely.
funny.
He's not
I
listening to me.
mentioned,
I don't have any Apple things.
yeah, I know I specifically mentioned this in terms of Tesla, and I said it makes sense for them to license their, um, it would make sense for them to license their software with the full self-driving software as part of it, for the car companies. And in Apple's case, it makes even more sense because it comes with a whole ecosystem that surrounds itself that already exists, and the infrastructure is already in place. Essentially, all they have to do is flip the switch, add some more lines of code. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but essentially
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, they already have this big Apple ecosystem that can already integrate with it, and they've already kind of they have the structure already there. What
Yeah.
CarPlay is today is very bare bones. You get to play music, you get to listen to your notifications read back to you, hands-free calls, and navigation. That's essentially what it boils down to. Adding all kinds of things about the car would be really great, especially considering companies like Tesla are making vehicles that don't include a lot of the typical buttons and switches that you would associate with temperature control, switching your seat, your armrest, lumbar support, whatever. Audio, speaker equipment. So to me, this is kind of a logical transition, especially if they would and can make more money with the existing customers and partners that they already have in the car space. All they have to do is kind of ask them for a little more access with their technology and their software on their side of things so that Apple can kind of gather that and put it into their platform. Interesting enough, and I need to do a little more research on this, but Apple last year kind of started venturing more into the car space in terms of not functionality, but features that you could use with the car that weren't just CarPlay, which was with Apple Wallet, you'd be able to use your phone um, as a key to get in your car. Apparently, that feature was supposed to roll out in masses this year, and I'm not sure because of COVID if that impacted anything, but allegedly, there's only a handful of vehicles, even up to as we're recording this, October 2021, that don't support this. And so it's interesting that they had this big momentum to get more into the car, and it's not really working in their favor. And so to me, this would seem like a logical pause on trying to convince more car companies to buy in until maybe they can flesh out the software and things on their end and show a more polished product to their partners and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you guys about this. What do you think? And have better feedback.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think the car companies could. I like it. Honestly, I'd kind of rather have Apple in charge of the UX of my car than these car companies because it's not their strong suit, admittedly. And I
Nope.
think they know that, and I know that for a fact I know for a fact they've been hiring more and more like computer science and computer engineer people to try and work these things out because they know that their UX is not up to par with, I mean, just as a pure car company, Tesla's, for example.
Right.
So obviously Apple's UX design is going to be much, much better than just about anything that GM is going to cook up, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And we will have to keep an eye on that one as we go through. I'd love to see more integration, and I'd love to see this coming out in future cars. Hopefully, we'll get people to buy in. And if Apple continues their domination of phone market, I think they will. Speaking of the phone market, the next article we have is about the long-awaited Google Pixel 6. This will be coming out on October 19th, so tune in on Tuesday for a episode of Tech Talk Nation, a special episode where we will cover the Google Pixel 6. But some of the teasers currently confirm 5 years of Android security updates, and something that kind of blew my mind a little bit was a 50 megapixel main sensor. And a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 6 Pro will add a 48 megapixel telephoto lens or telephoto sensor to the phone. I am super excited to see what's coming out here.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys go first, and I'll kind of rain on the parade a little bit at the end.
Yeah, sure. You can try.
But by the way, I am excited for this, and I will be watching this live.
You can try.
So
we'll
I'm
see.
excited for this.
But,
I'm really excited for this chip. That's for chip.
Yeah, my first take on that 50 megapixel thing is I don't know about that, but for the moment, I'm going to treat it as if that's true, right?
Right.
That might be them trying to like kind of future proof a little bit, right? Because for the past just about 4 years, somewhere along those lines, they've had the same exact camera in all their phones.
Yes, a 12
They haven't
megapixel
changed
sensor.
it at all. It's the same. It's not only just the same size, it's basically the same model. So they used that for a long time, and they really refined their data science on it and really got good at that computational photography on it. So my first take is by them choosing like a really strong sensor like that, they're going to reuse that sensor again and again for the next years and just keep updating their what do you call it? Computational photography on it and get that perfectly refined again like they did already. Because it is obviously different for each sensor that you use, because you get different artifacts, you get stronger in certain areas. It's not like they're starting from like nothing. They know what they're doing on this very clearly. But I think that might be them trying to future-proof on it.
I could see it.
Yeah. Just in general, I'm excited for it. I like that they're making their own silicon for it. I like the design of it. That black bar across the back to me looks at least somewhat distinct from a lot of things that are around right now. Yeah. There's a good chance I buy the Pixel 6. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely consider it if it becomes a phone that we've been hyping it up to be, and if all these things
Yeah.
come true, which I'm hoping for. I'd love to see their own silicon in this. I'd love to see a camera that can hold its own, if not better than some of the competitors on the other side there. And I would really like to see a battery that can last a while.
Yes.
Go ahead.
If I can just run at it real quick,
Sure.
that's I think maybe the undersold portion of this is going to be this year's update to Android. Supposedly, they've gone through, they've cleaned up a lot of their code. Everything's supposed to be running a lot more efficiently this year, which everything that runs more efficiently, you're going to get better battery life, you're going to get better screen on time, all that, and hopefully faster performance. That, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, was one of the big selling points when Google announced this iteration of Android. So, you know, fingers crossed that all that does happen, that it really is a big step forward. That with their own silicon could be a real like boost that, yeah, I'm excited.
All right, Tom will take us down a bit.
You can
let's
try.
let's go back to the title of this article, which has to do with security updates and software updates. Now, not to take anything away from the Google Pixel 6, this is probably the first non-iPhone in a long time, because I've been so kept up in its lead up to the release that I'm actually really excited about this phone. I'm gonna be watching the invite or the whatever the event. We'll probably be talking about it in our own Discord chat. But the one thing I want to bring your attention back to is that title, that they're going to be pushing out security updates for 5 years. That's awesome. That's really great.
Uh-oh.
Until you look and see that right now, Apple just pushed out a brand new OS that is still supporting a 6-year-old device, and at the same time, they're supporting older devices that remained on the previous OS and still pushing out security updates. So yes, 5 years is great. They do point out Android has 4 years, but it still is not the industry standard. Now, I can't quite tell you what the number is truly about how long they're going to be supporting something like this, because this is the first time that they've done this, a dual OS thing, and truthfully, this will definitely be the longest support time of any of most devices.
Sure.
But to bring it back from I'm excited for the Tensor and the Pixel and I could buy it and whatever, to the title and the reason that we were showing this article in the first place, or one of the reasons, it still comes in second. And I still can't tell you that's a minimum of 6 years support. And that's 6 years. That's 6 years of support plus, and with a new software.
Yeah, good
As an
point.
option.
Good point. This article does
Sure.
say security updates. Depending on how they interpret that, that means I'll patch Android,
That
whatever.
means keeping it secure.
Yeah, keeping whatever version
I mean,
secure.
it's not going to get new features and all that. Like, even we were talking about this last week. Grislow's phone isn't getting the new
A lot
features.
of the new features. Come
Yeah.
on, Apple, what the heck?
That's a pretty common thing to do on the phones.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
21
hardware.
said that 6 years.
Yeah.
This is the cutoff.
They've been
This
doing
phone is that 6-year cutoff.
so, I looked it up. In the past, they've been doing about 3-year updates worth of.
Or what? It
security,
wasn't
which-
6-year cutoff, but
Yeah, they've been doing 3 years, which is not bad. It's not great, but I think most Android phones previously, you kind of.
After
I don't think people
two,
tend to keep
yeah.
them for more than. I've seen some 3 years on them.
although I mean, is that what you're seeing, or really truthfully what's going on? Because at least with
That's what I'm
With-
seeing around me in my immediate area. In other places, that's most likely not the case. People might be keeping them for half a decade.
I mean, at least from what we're seeing recently is people are holding on to their devices
sure.
longer than they would have, let's say 5
Listen,
to 6
I can
years
tell
ago.
you pretty reasonably
I
in
mean,
a lot
I-
of like other countries, I'm sure people are holding onto their phones for 5 years plus, and
Yeah.
it's good to see them at least keep the security updates a lot longer.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially in countries where a phone in general is a luxury.
Yeah.
Being able to
Sure.
hold on to something like that will be very essential. I think in a lot of cases, the success of this type of life cycle boils mainly down to what the initial investment is, what the perceived value of the features that you're getting out of said investment, and then what the life cycle of the software itself looks like. Like, are they going to push out a new version of Android every 2 years that's going to slow down, or excuse me, every year or so that's going to slow down your phone? Or are they going to keep on optimizing, making sure things are working right, and make it a little more lean, I guess? I do think that's
Sure.
one thing where Apple does have a competitive edge, where they know what to do on each device to make it at least attempt to be a little more like
Yes.
self-sustaining.
Part of that, I think part of that you can attribute to them making their own silicon for the past
Good point.
for a long while now. And I think maybe the transition over to Google's own silicon is what might be helping to enable all that.
Interesting.
And if Google's past trends are about right, I'd expect maybe 4 to 5 years of Android updates, and then another 1 to 2 after that is security. I'd probably lean towards 4 years of actual Android.
Interesting.
That's just me going off the last update for the Pixel. So the Pixel was 2 years of Android, 3 years of security. So just, I don't know, doubling that. I'd imagine it's maybe 4 years of Android, 6 years of security.
For sure.
Mm.
Cool. Well, we are going to definitely keep tabs on that, cover everything as we find out about the Pixel 6 that will be coming out.
Maybe even review it. We'll see.
Maybe even review it. We'll see. But anyway, we are now going to move into talking about Tesla here, because they've had a very interesting week. Um, so basically, Tesla confirmed that they officially have moved their headquarters from California to Texas. That really didn't come as a surprise after the way Elon Musk has been very vocal about his disdain for the Californian way of life. Um, and basically, they halted a rollout of full self-driving beta to drivers with quote perfect safety scores. Now we have a little addendum to this story, and this is like breaking news. So I'm going to let my good buddy Matt Grislow take hold of this one.
Well, it's not really breaking because the tweet I think was out at like 4 in the morning or something. But Elon did tweet just like he did that they were going to halt the release of FSD 10.2. He tweeted at 4 in the morning today that it did roll out. Only to the people with those perfect driving scores. That has to do with how you drive in, I believe, like 1,000 mile range time period, or I guess 1,000 miles of range, based off of how well you are and how likely you are to avoid collisions and whatnot. And it only goes out to that group of people. So we rolled out subsequently to people with lower scores of like 99 or whatever. It's interesting to see, while I have the mic, and I suppose I'm giving my take now, it is interesting to see a company really think about what they're putting out and then stop and work on it to make sure they're putting out the right thing. I'd like to think that other companies would do the same with their software that has less impact on other people in terms of their immediate safety. But I'm glad that Tesla is doing that and making it very public that they are. I think it's important, and we talk about transparency, right? They're very transparent and said, yeah, we're not ready to release the software. It's not ready, and we don't feel comfortable putting this in the hands of even the most trusted users. I appreciate that level of transparency, and I can only hope that they continue to do that. I'm also just not surprised in general that they moved to California, or I'm sorry, moved out of California and announced that they're moving to Texas, or at least now it's permanent. It just makes sense. A lot of companies moving there. They're incentivized too now. It's gonna be the next big tech hub in Texas.
Yep.
But yeah, those are my thoughts.
It's shaping up that way, yeah. Can I just completely derail this for a second just because I had a funny idea?
Let me say one more thing, and then I'll let
Okay.
you derail. Basically, I'd be more inclined to be mad about this if it was a production release of a software. Like, if this was your launch to go out and they're just like, whoa, 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 we're not going to do this, I'd be like, that is awful. You said you were going to do something. You should have done it.
That's an important distinction to make here, I
right.
think, too.
It's a beta version of the software. So it's a very early development version that they feel comfortable. Well, now they do, but at the time they didn't feel
Yeah.
comfortable enough releasing to a set of people who will test the software for them. So with this, there's a really big distinction between, hey, they're taking the cautionary tale now, and then hopefully that will translate into better results in the future. But we will see about that.
I'll derail us after the story.
Okay.
Actually.
That was all I was
Who
going
are
to say.
these? Yeah. No, I'm going to say some stuff too. Who are? It's a very like bold thing, I think, to be Tesla's self-driving beta person.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't
I
know if I
think-
want to do that.
I think somewhere they said that there were 2,000 people either on this version or a very similar version of this software previous to it being released in beta form.
Yeah.
And allegedly no accidents, but I mean, maybe not on that software, but
Well,
plenty of other ones.
I feel like that
ended in
arbitrary
accidents.
safety score number is almost Tesla's like, I mean, obviously it's for being a safe driver and stuff like that, but I also feel like it's almost like a driver trustworthiness indicator
Mhm.
from Tesla to just be like, hey,
Yeah.
is this guy going to be an idiot on the road with this thing, or are they actually
Yeah.
going to pay attention and step in if something bad were to happen?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
'cause
pretty
if
sure they
you're-
also mentioned that they would revoke
that's
access to this
interesting.
beta if they did find that they were acting recklessly. or if their score dropped.
Hmm.
Excuse me. How does beta self-driving software interact with like driving laws and like the regulation of all that? I wonder. Or there might just be none at the moment
I don't
because it's
know.
not something we've
Is
really
that
had to deal with yet.
That's a good question.
I wonder if they give you, that you see those like manufacturer plates, like those license plates where it's like a manufacturer car or something like that. I
Yeah,
wonder if it's something similar to that where it's like I know those aren't like fully accessible plates and stuff like that. Maybe it's something similar with the way they do that because or dis they just disclaim it with the fact of, hey, somebody is in control of the vehicle and they will step in at any time and these people
they
are
should.
trustworthy to do so.
Yeah,
I'd
that's the
like
thing. And
I'd like to think that when they made the rules to allow self-driving or even semi-autonomous vehicles on the road anyway, that they would have included some sort of clause in the legislation that there was room for a beta program, but only if it was allowed or okayed or whatever. I
I
feel like
think,
it'd be foolish to believe that Tesla is able to really act on its own here and put out truly self-driving, like a beta version of self-driving software,
Hmm.
and the state of California or wherever is just okay with that because of how limited it is. I guarantee you, it's got to be limited to states where that's even okay. So there's got to be some sort of rules or legislation or oversight in place because if there's not, that's a huge oversight. I mean, that's the first thing you think of. It's like, all right, you have software. What happens if we have a beta version? We'll test it. Who's going to test it?
well,
You know, that had to have
yeah,
already, those
I
conversations already
think,
had to have happened. I'd like to think.
well, no, I think this is how they're skirting it, and that's part of why they have this like driver trustworthiness score. Is it's not self-driving. It is,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not supposed to treat it as self-driving. You're supposed to be paying
Right.
attention, active and engaged, making sure you don't hit anything. And I think that might be how they're getting around it.
Hmm.
And that's, I guess,
Hmm.
also why they are only rolling this out to certain people as well. Because if there's an accident during this period, for them, that is going to be a nightmare of PR and litigation.
Oh, yeah.
So that's,
Oh man, there's got to be something in the terms of service when you buy a Tesla. It talks about
there it
these,
is.
in really tiny print.
Yeah, in between
I
the
mean, there
lines.
100% is where it just flat out says, this isn't meant to be self-driving. You need to pay attention and be ready to intervene at any time.
Yeah,
That's
that's
there. I know
gotta
that's
be.
there because that's why that we talked about like some troll weeks ago who was getting drunk and diving in the back of his Tesla and being driven home that way.
No. He
And he
wasn't
got
getting drunk.
arrested
He
for
was
it.
fully sober and just saying, "I don't want to drive."
Ah, well, there's a reason
He
he was
was
getting
just being what
arrested.
we
It's because
call a
that's still
moron.
illegal.
That is still
Yeah.
legal. That's correct.
Yes.
Yes, but
Yeah, we should get an
But
update on
yeah,
that guy.
yeah, I don't
let's
know.
not.
Probably
I
jail.
don't want to dignify him with the one thing that he craves, and that's attention.
And you said that during
Yeah,
when we were talking about it. So
it's been
Probably.
months. It has been months.
yeah.
It hasn't just been weeks. It's been months.
Yeah,
So I'd be curious, like summer months. So I'd be
I'm not.
curious to see what
I
happened.
Well,
I'll be honest. Never mind. I don't want to know any more about him. I don't want to give him attention.
for sure.
Fair.
What probably shouldn't be getting attention? Tesla announcing a new Giga beer with the
Nope. All
Cybertruck
these.
Let's
inspired
go.
bottle. Basically,
All
they
these.
came out and made tequila in 2018, just as kind of like a meme, and now they're doing it with beer.
Tequila.
So yeah, it's a cool, as people call it, a Cybertruck inspired bottle, and that's kind of cool, I guess. So
Well,
yeah, Tesla is making alcohol now. Uh,
the difference
Again,
is the tequila was a one-off. The
right.
beer
yeah.
the beer sounds to be like a mainstay, and this was all part of the conversation. The part of the conversation where Elon was, yeah, we're going to build a train station at our gigafactory. We're going to beautify the area. We're going to put up all kinds of wall art. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have our own beer. Like,
Yeah,
I love it.
and
I
this
love
one
it.
could actually be a mainstay too, right? Because tequila is a lot
This
more
is going to
complicated
be a
than beer.
mainstay.
Yeah,
It
what I'm
like
saying,
not a
sure.
question.
I'll be honest, I didn't really look deep into this one. I just have this knowledge about how alcohol is made. Tequila kind of had to be a one-off because there's a whole like host of laws on how tequila gets made, where it can be made, and all that to be called tequila. And that's where like I think there was some litigation issues he was having with like Tesla Tequila just as a thing for a while. I think they ended
Yeah,
up ironing it
mhm.
all out and just contracting it with a tequila provider.
They did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't make it.
But beer, they could actually make it their own factory. And beers, like the lead in time on beer is really short. Like, I'm pretty sure a batch of beer takes a month, two months, just
I think it's
about to
like
make.
I think it's like 6 weeks. I
Between
think.
3 weeks and 2 months, depending on the beer, alcohol content, and all that, I think is about where it is. It's been a while. I used to make alcohol,
Let's just
but
I just hope they don't enjoy their new refreshments and then get behind the wheel. That is a very bad thing to do. Just pick it
Yeah,
up, put it in the
yeah,
trunk, and
but
let your car drive.
what
yeah.
if it drives them home?
Yeah, put your Tesla Growler in your frunk
That's
and
illegal.
drive your Model Y home before you can enjoy your beverage.
It's funny
I will
though.
say,
I like the
I will say,
idea.
I would plan a trip around that just to get the Tesla
Oh,
beer.
100%. And
Yeah, it's funny.
Let's be honest.
if I could
It's
get a
really
tour,
funny. I like the idea.
yes, that is very
Yeah,
funny.
and
And
because it's beer, they can actually just produce it. It's not
right,
hard for them to produce. There's a lot less like they don't have to deal with copyright issues too. They can just make their beer and laugh.
Well, not to
yes,
mention, this is going to be in their what is it? The Berlin Brandenburg,
yep, the
their
Berlin
Germany
gig
plant.
of yeah, the
Yeah.
Germany factory. They're gonna make
Yeah.
Oh
beer
yeah,
at the
in Germany,
Germany.
So
drinking laws are a lot looser than the U.S.'s.
yeah, not to mention they'll have a lot of good people around them to help them out with this. So it's not going to be.
Can't you
It's going
drink
to be a
beer?
long time before they can figure it out, but probably an expedited process than you would get with trying to find someone. I mean, they'll still have to find someone, but it'll just be a lot. It'll be expedited just based off the fact it's in Germany.
Right,
What is it? Beer at like 16 in Germany
something like that. I know
The drinking
it's
age, yeah, I
concerningly
think
low,
it's young.
for beer. I think
It's young.
spirits might be 18.
but
Either way, yeah, it's cool. I'm excited.
yeah,
Give
definitely
Tesla beer.
Good meme.
Tesla beer, good meme. Well,
Good
in
meme.
other a little more somber news, Twitch was completely breached this week, and the entirety of Twitch had been leaked, including source codes, the payouts that the individual streamers got, as well as the entirety of the development history of Twitch.
We love it.
And we'll get to that in a little bit too. But basically, it is the entirety of the source code with the commit history, and I'll explain what that is in a bit. Creator payout reports from 2019, mobile, desktop, and console clients, proprietary software development kits, and internal Amazon Web Services technologies used by Twitch, and every other property that Twitch owns. So any of the other basic things, as well as an unreleased Steam competitor that they've been um, developing, and some red team tools basically for people to try and break into their own network. So this was a very big leak,
Apparently, the
and
red team wasn't very good.
yeah,
They weren't red enough. They were too blue.
This was a very big leak, and the one thing that I want to draw attention to as well is the commit history. So for those of you that
The
don't
commit
know,
history is pretty funny.
yes, for those of you that don't know, that's
Which is
how.
me.
So what's called a commit is you have what's called a repository. This repository is where all of your developers send their code once they finish developing it. And in every one of those actions where you send the code to the repository, you have to commit the code. And you have to write a message basically saying, here's what I did, and this is what I changed. So you can send it in, and then somebody can approve it and get added to the main code base. That also will show you kind of how Twitch works on the inside, the organizational structure, how they approve their things, how they do everything, and kind of show you how they develop Twitch. in general, kind of from zero to here, where they got this from.
Yeah.
But
In that.
in that, developers are
Can I,
funny. Uh,
yes, they well
well, yes, and frustrated. So, kind of before we get into discussing this a little bit more,
I love it.
I want to just share
Yeah.
a couple of little,
Yeah.
little,
Commits like
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
commits internal to like one team too are going to be like the funniest because they're not going to be like straightforward on like this is what I fixed and blah 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 blah. It's going to be like a lot of swearing, a lot of yelling, a lot of like inside jokes within that little group because it's not going to anyone else. That's the internal stuff when they push basically to other to like the main part of Twitch, then they'll make like real statements.
Yeah, like actual
But these
statements.
smaller ones are so funny.
Yeah, when there's some developer that's ready to pull their hair out. And luckily,
Yeah.
a wonderful user on Twitter, Play a Dev here, was able to aggregate a lot of them, and they are very funny. Like, oh my god, that was it. It actually builds. Or,
I'm sure you guys feel it a lot.
yep, mouse
Yeah.
events now work magically. Temp files and CSVs suck. Formatting sucks. I suck. Why won't you build? What port are we running this on? And WTF Sublime text. Yes. So anyway,
His first mistake was using Sublime text.
bingo. But anyway, this kind of gives you a glimpse into the internal Twitch culture, the internal way their development team works, and how everything works there. But it makes it a lot more fun to see. I mean, obviously, I don't wish them to get hacked and compromised and breached and all this stuff, but
No.
at least the tech community got some laughs out of a real
Yeah.
Amazon-owned organization here. Um, at least having some fun with it.
Oh
Yes.
shoot! I forgot Bezos owns that.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
Amazon owned.
that is Amazon
Uh
owned.
there's a small piece
Cool.
to add to this too.
Okay,
This was labeled as part 1.
what? I didn't even
You
know
didn't
that.
Oh, no, it was
What?
labeled as part 1. So
Oh my
Is
there was
gosh.
Amazon Part 2?
I don't know. They might just have more information on Twitch itself. They didn't release passwords. They didn't release like that kind of stuff. But I mean, I imagine if you can get all of Twitch's internal source code, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they got passwords too. But this was,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure this
Sheesh.
was labeled like as part 1 of like, or not part 1 of, it just said part 1. And that was the leak. The leak
interesting.
itself, some of the information in it was enlightening.
Yes, enlightening, and
How
that
much money people will donate to millionaires.
yes, and that
if
will
they pretend like they're not.
that will enlighten me to it kind of shows like some of these the salaries of all the people, and all these streamers
Yeah.
are now getting in hot water for the way they've acted, or the way that they've made portrayed their
Yeah.
wealth or lack thereof, and have been asking people to donate, and basically are in a way scamming people out of
Yeah.
money. And one of the other memes that we found for today is what Reddit being wonderful once again. And there's this meme from Pow RT and the Kisser here. Basically saying Twitch streamers' monthly income gets leaked, people realizing they actually donated to millionaires. And yeah, but basically,
Granted, this is pre-tax
yes, pre-tax,
because
obviously.
Twitch. I don't know how much people know about Twitch streaming and all that. They do. You're basically listed as an independent contractor. They don't do any of your taxes for you. You have to do it all on your own.
Right,
So all this is pre-tax.
correct.
Still, it's a lot of money. The
It's a
highest
lot of
paid
money.
people. Well, the highest paid channel, I think, was Critical Role, which is interesting.
I think it was like $800,000 or something like that a month.
No,
Or
it's
no.
like 8 million.
Huh.
It
Yeah,
is
I'll have to
way
look
more
into
than
that.
$800,000.
Maybe I was just
Like
looking.
I think the 10th most streamer was still in the millions.
Okay, then never mind.
Critical Role was number 1, but
Mhm.
that's like an actual production company and stuff.
But anyway, the other thing with
Yeah.
all of this too is just now that code is out there, and it's people now know what their technology stack is. They know what was there. They know how they wrote things. I don't know if this will be used for further exploits, or I don't know if this poses a threat for Amazon as a whole. Because they're owned by Amazon, I'm not sure if this translates to how far into the Amazon in general code base.
They were
So
acquired,
they were, yes, they were
so
acquired.
their source code probably started from a very different point.
Right, but
Yeah.
then
But
when you have the Amazon acquisition, maybe they may be interfacing with
unlikely.
Amazon Web Services in a way that's different from some of their other clients, potentially.
Yeah, there might have been some changes there,
Mhm.
but to go through and change all the code, like I
Oh
know
no,
just
not
from
at
the
all.
past, YouTube, Google never did that in YouTube. A lot of their code is still old code
Hmm.
because it's just a
I like that.
nightmare to pour through all that. But yeah, what was the last point? Oh yeah, the joke that you've made a couple of times has been overnight Twitch just became the largest open source company.
Yep,
Yes.
and the good meme here, I sent this
And
soon.
I
Yeah.
bring that up for a
Oh.
point. I bring that up to make a point. Maybe this is where they translate to like actually being like, okay, we're just going to be open source now. All of our code's out there, so we might as well continue this and at least try and turn this negative into like we're going to be open source now, so other people can at least see our code and help us figure out what's wrong with it.
And there, in a way, is
But
your
maybe that's a foolish idea.
Well, here's the thing. We talked about transparency earlier in the broadcast
True.
today. There you go. Open source
Speaking of earlier in
transparency.
the broadcast,
So
hear me out. This was the. Can I derail? Are we good with this story, real quick?
Can I get in on
Yes.
this?
Yes, I will
just wanna
derail
get on
after you.
this. Two things. One, am I the only one that's just enjoying this like orchestrated chaos, like this dumpster fire? I feel
A
like
little
right
bit,
now,
yeah.
I like during this whole thing, especially because I don't really, well, I don't use Twitch at all. I feel like just kind of the guy sitting across the street, like last, I don't know, summer, as people were like Molotov cocktailing businesses and like looting stores, and I'm just
Or-
sitting there with like a bag of Doritos, just kind of eating away and watching. I feel like that's kind of what my role is in this. I think it's terrible. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. Especially considering
Yes.
what you said earlier about if they have the source code, imagine what else they have that they're not showing you. Considering they labeled this as a part one.
Part one.
To me,
Oh,
I
no.
think this is, and another aspect of this. To me, it does pose a big problem for Bezos. I really like this is never good. Doesn't matter how much source code of and individuality and or whatever uniqueness of code Twitch has over Amazon. It's still a property, and they have to interface with it somehow, nonetheless. And it's one of their properties at the end of the day, and so that's a big problem. I can't think of a bigger issue we've covered where this hasn't been so monumental. What do they own?
Yeah,
Ring? They had some security issues with that, but never
We
this
were just
big.
talking about what do you call it last week too? Their little drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rover dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you do if you're Amazon. Like if Twitch is its own thing, right? And they're owned by Amazon, but Amazon does own them. So what does Amazon do?
Yes.
Like, what's their stance on their other properties that they have that do include proprietary code that, at least as far as they understand and we understand, hasn't been completely leaked yet? You know, like
right.
that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's for me at least. It's like what all these hackers are right now combing through this code, thinking what
Yes.
could be shared with other things Amazon owns. What could be shared with something else? How can I move laterally within this environment?
Yeah.
So,
All
yeah.
right, Ryan, you want to derail
Alrighty.
for like 2 minutes?
Oh yeah. It was just a funny like 3-second talk from or a thought from like two stories ago.
Okay.
What if just every time you log into Facebook, it's like the warning on the back of a cigarette case, and it just says warning. May contain misleading information, may lead to depression, may And it just
I
has a
mean,
list of side effects.
I mean, I can see you. I can see like an in terms or from a regulatory standpoint, if anything like this were to go through, that being some sort of splash screen that came up when you logged in manually anytime from one of those social media sites. So not when you
Yeah.
have your password saved and all that, but like if you have to re-put in your password, your username to get back into whatever you're
Yeah.
looking at,
It
even
says
if it's not
warning.
Facebook, if it's Twitter, if it's Snapchat. I can see some sort of splash screen when you log in implemented
It was
because
just a funny random idea I had while we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
that's a really easy thing for a developer
Yeah.
to include that doesn't really hamper the user experience. And then also I feel like it kind of takes the blame and the responsibility off of them because they've already no matter how many studies they've done to prove how good or bad their platform is for people, they've already
it's the person's
essentially
choice.
they're giving the user the option and the
And the
knowledge
information.
that something bad could happen, and they're accepting the risk by essentially signing in.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a bad thing.
Yeah, me
Maybe
either.
it's in terms of service when you create an account, but I can see it as useful and beneficial.
Yeah,
Not
definitely.
fixing things, but
That was just a funny idea.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
practical. It's somewhat practical.
yeah, I could see it
Yeah.
being I could see it being a pretty practical solution here, but
It just it reminds me of like some old movie that I love called Thank You for Smoking. It's
yes.
just
Mm.
the main I've talked about it before, I think, to you guys. It's just
Mhm.
the main character is a lobbyist for the cigarette industry, which is just a crazy person to put as your like front man for a movie.
For sure.
But yeah.
Well, speaking of crazy things, how about moon Wi-Fi?
How
Well,
about it?
how about it? Well, anyway, NASA's moon Wi-Fi, which will be kind of a network that they're developing to um, work on the moon with any form of habitation or civilization that will eventually be there, is getting developed right now. But it's not getting tested in the desert or anything like that. No, it's getting tested in Cleveland. Basically, they're working through the Greater Cleveland Partnership to kind of figure out how they could get 31% of the houses in Cleveland that don't have internet access online in the most effective and cheapest way. And they were hoping to leverage a similar network structure that they would for the moon, which is interesting.
I want to qualify what you said just to confirm that's true. I don't think they're testing this moon system on Cleveland. Cleveland approached NASA and asked for its help based off the research they're doing for the moon, specifically to help them for that part of Cleveland and their Wi-Fi.
Let me fact check that.
I'm
Okay, you're correct.
yeah.
I misspoke. It said what NASA
Yeah.
isn't doing is actually building out such a network. I thought they said they were building that out, so I misread. My apologize.
Cleveland's going to NASA as the expert on this is almost like a what do you call that? There's a name for it.
An SME, subject matter expert.
No, like a practical name. Like the
Consultant?
people at Deloitte,
A guru, a consultant.
like a consultant, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to him as a consultant, not as a builder or whatever.
For sure.
I think though, as long as I have the floor, I think it's pretty neat that you can take lessons learned from building it like infrastructure in the space and use those lessons to effectively help the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's kind of going that way, and it's interesting that it's evolving this way. Like a lot of the really cool technologies that we use today were first formed in the military. GPS, the number one thing.
The internet, kind
the
of.
Wi-Fi,
The internet.
or internet was
internet in general.
Yeah.
okay. Well, I think it's just really interesting to see this kind of evolve. It's like, okay, well, now we're not just creating new technology to solve solutions. We're actually trying to figure out problems based off of experiences with the Interstellar. That might not be the right
Yeah.
space word I'm trying to think of, but yeah, I think it's
The
really interesting.
ISS.
It's really cool. Also, when they talk about location services on the moon, I like in that article, every part of me that was like 5 years old still and still loved and still does love rockets, just like screamed like a little kid again, like with joy. That to me was just like, wow, that's so cool. A 5 year old does not understand location services. I understand that, but the idea that you could just have
Oh, for
moon
now.
Wi-Fi and moon location services, like I that's just so crazy. Like imagine, I don't know, in 50 years when, let's say, we have a moon base. Let's assume we have a moon base, and you can set your location. You're like, yeah, I'm on the southern equator near the right. I don't know, because I don't know who
Snapchat.
they'd name. I'm trying to think of it as like, everything's location based, right? So you have to have some sort of name convention. And I know they name craters and stuff, but they have to come up with
Yeah.
something else, right? So what are they going to name it after? Like presidents? Are they going to name it after like? What are they going to name it after? The scientists? They're like, yeah, my location's the South Pole. I'm 10 meters away from the, I don't know, insert scientist name here who came up with the system, crater or rock formation or whatever. I just think this whole
We
idea
have
is really
a
cool.
lot of the
None
stuff
of it's
is
far
already
fetched. None of it's far fetched. And again, I'm just geeking out of this because this is just so cool.
Snapchat, just
And then
like
extrapolate
this
that out to
pale
Mars,
blue
right?
dot in the
That's the next
background.
thing. That's the next
Exactly.
thing. So it's like, oh, this is just so cool.
Yeah.
It's like me I'm tech fangirling over this. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. There's a good history too for just NASA trying to come up with some kind of technology for their spaceships or their spacesuits and all that. And that eventually finding other applications Earthside.
Right.
Like that's got a pretty like good history too. I forget all the inventions. There's like a couple big ones that I've just completely forgetting, but they've definitely made huge advances in like materials and stuff too. Just to
Let
be
me
able to go
look it
up
up.
into space in the first
Kevlar,
place. Yeah. There's so
Velcro,
many like
um,
yeah, there's a bunch of
Ooh.
ceramics too, I'm sure that they pioneered just to be able to get up into space.
right. Teflon. Yeah.
Teflon.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of these materials are all
Yeah.
NASA. I think duct tape, or no, I don't think so. Maybe
I don't know.
certain type
But
of
yeah,
it.
I'm just saying there's a long history of this and it's cool. I like
Oh
it.
yeah, definitely. I
It's
agree. And
and that's yeah.
I would love to see the tertiary advancements that come out of stuff like this. And I mean, that's the one thing that's a little disappointing with NASA going more towards the private route and then just being a consumer of technology, because you don't get these tertiary advancements that kind of go to the general public,
Sure.
but
But
it's a lot more cost effective. So,
yeah, but that torch has also been passed on to like SpaceX and I guess Blue Origin. I
fair.
guess whatever. And they'll definitely have, I think, 5-7 years from now, patents that come out with advances they've made in order to make their stuff better.
For sure.
Just because you mentioned Blue Origin, I do want to remind everyone that
Oh
Captain
yes,
Shape of
Kirk
the rocket.
and company will be taking off either tomorrow or Wednesday.
tomorrow I believe. Let me take a look.
In his Hermes-shaped rocket. His Herm-shaped rocket.
Yes.
That makes
Herm.
sense.
Yes.
If there's anyone
October
who's a
13th.
who's a huge nerd and gets that joke.
So Wednesday.
Wednesday. It's
Yeah,
Wednesday,
if
yes.
anyone's a huge history nerd, he's going to take off in a Herm-shaped rocket.
Yep. Wednesday.
Yep. Yeah.
Alrighty.
It's interesting stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is. But anyway, that's actually all we have for tonight, believe it or not.
All right.
yeah.
Not 2 hours and
Alrighty.
counting.
Yeah, we're only an hour and 24
Mostly
and counting.
concise.
Well, anyway, with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you to Grislow and Ryan once again for being here tonight. It is always wonderful to get your guys' opinion on everything, and it is a great time. Please feel free to follow us on social media and get on the Tech Talk Nation bandwagon with all of us here. We love interacting with the community. We want to see you here on the show. So we answer all of the queries that we get and the questions and stuff like that. So we love involving you guys. So with that, thank you so much for tuning into Tech Talk Nation tonight. We will be here next Tuesday to cover the Pixel launch and actually NS-18 here, the new Shepard mission with Captain Kirk on board. So with that, have a wonderful night and see you next Tuesday.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.